landmark book. It's called Modern Dilemmas, Choosing Children. It's not a middle-of-the-road book. It's a very daring book. Curing of a sibling by deliberately concealing a child in order to provide something, perhaps bone marrow or some genetic material that will help cure an already ailing child in a family. What do you feel about that?
Well, we have a couple of cases in the United Kingdom again, which people may be familiar with, which resulted in a very different outcome. The first involved a family, the Whittaker family, whose son suffered from a condition called diamond-black fan anemia, and the child was likely to die without some kind of clinical assistance. The only person, unfortunately for the family, there was nobody in the family alive who could have donated the bone marrow or the stem cells. They just wanted to take blood from the umbilical cord once the baby was born and develop stem cells from that which could be used to treat Charlie Whittaker. They applied to the HFEA for permission to do this, and the HFEA refused them permission on the basis that Charlie's condition is sporadic rather than genetic. So, although they could in fact have a child, an embryo that was free from the condition and it was compatible with Charlie, because the embryo was at no risk of having the condition, the HFEA said no. And then along came the Hashmi family, whose son...
So wait a minute, what happened to Charlie?
Charlie's parents took him to America and paid for the treatment privately there, and had a son called Jamie, whose cord blood was used, and Charlie is completely cured. So a very happy ending.
And that was allowed under American law?
Because the Americans don't actually regulate this particularly closely. The case that raised the question of sex selection in the United Kingdom, many of you may know, was a case of a family who actually wanted to choose a girl child and not a boy child. The Masterson family from Dundee lost their daughter tragically and had 3 sons, and they wanted to have a girl to restore what they regarded as a family balance. Now, a lot of people in this room may think that's appalling. My point would be that they made that decision on the basis of reasons which were good to them, for them. When you have your children, you try and shape them, you try and turn them into brilliant piano players or wonderful television presenters or whatever it is that you think their perfect choice in life should be. We do try and influence these things all the time. The question in a sense is whether or not it's worse that we do it using science, or whether that doesn't make it any less bad or less good. There are some people where, for example, genetic problems on both sides would suggest that the best assisted reproduction methodology would be reproductive cloning, if it were safe, and it's not safe, and nobody in their right mind would recommend that we do it now. There are also maybe people who have lost a child or have a child who is dying, and who feel that if they could recreate the physical presence of that child, that it would be easier to bond with that child.
Oh,
You look as if you think that's absolutely disgusting.
Well, I can see many good novels being written about that. Nonetheless, it is an argument that came up in the House of Lords debate, for example. I think Lord Winston just said cloning was absolutely wrong, and it was going to remain wrong for the foreseeable future. And there are people who feel that playing God, is a phrase that's often used, and subverting nature is in itself a dangerous and damaging thing for humanity to do. The kind of playing God and sort of interfering with nature argument is a very common argument. The difficulty with it is that is actually the job of medicine. Nature gives us cancers and tonsillitis and plague, and the job of our doctors is to go out there and interfere with nature. Because I want to commend it to you, Modern Dilemmas, Choosing Children, and on the back is indeed a commendation by Baroness Warnock, of whom you spoke.